Constitution is now irrelevant. Nobody follows it. According to Article 1, Section 1, it states that all legislative power shall be invested in a Congress. Obama is the president. So if the Constitution says only Congress makes the law, how can the president make his own laws called executive orders? The whole purpose of the tripartite government is to do what? Keep a check and balance. And by the way, that's stolen from ancient African judicial procedure. In ancient African societies, you had the council of elders, you had the community, itself, and then you had your legislative body. The tripartite government is an African thing to make sure everybody is honest and doing what they're supposed to do for the people. President as king. Executive orders become law simply by being published in the Federal Registry. They do not need to be approved of by Congress. This is why when I hear black people who are Obama maniacs, when you say things like, why hasn't Obama done more for black people? Why hasn't he done more for black boys in particular? That's my gripe. People say, well, how are you going to get a law passed to help black boys when he has to get approval from a Senate that's all white? Well, now you have Cory Booker from New Jersey, who I believe is a Rhodes Scholar, who I'm also hearing is probably going to be the next Negro for President project if they so need one down the road. Did y'all hear that? He's the only black senator, if you want to call him that. I think he's biracial, which is still African to me, but psychologically, we know a lot about biracials are not loyal to the African blood, But the point that I'm trying to make is if Obama wanted to help black people or black children, he could have just wrote an executive order. You do it for everybody else. Why we didn't get an executive order? Everybody else gets an executive order. You wrote an executive order and bailed out Wall Street. You wrote an executive order and bailed out the American automobile industry. You wrote executive orders to help gays and lesbians. So if you can just write an executive order for others, why can't black people get 1 or 2 executive orders? You know, Obama was also petitioned to exonerate Marcus Garvey from the false charges of the 1920s. There was a petition sent, millions of signatures were sent to Obama. This was a couple years ago. Some of y'all heard about that. And Obama refused to exonerate Mr. Garvey. His response was, I have more important things to worry about. Black president. I'm supposed to be with Al Sharpton in Washington, D.C. on December 21st. This is going to be real interesting. Now, I know I can't go in on it because we down the street from the White House, a couple blocks from the CIA and the FBI, and he's an agent. So if I go in on it, I won't get back to Philly that night. Now, we're going to run through a couple of executive orders, and I want you to write down or make a note on yourself on any executive order that is of particular significance to you and do more research on that executive order at the library. Executive Order 10990 authorizes the takeover of all transportation, all highways, and all seas. Executive Order 10995 authorizes the takeover of all communications in media. This is the internet shutdown right here. This is the order that allows them to shut down your internet, your cell phone. When I was in Detroit, check this out. The same day that they had the 17 states lost their EBT card ability, my cell phone went out for like 8 hours, y'all. I could not use it. I thought it was the bill. I paid the bill, it still wouldn't work for a while. It just happened to me again a couple days ago. Cell phone is on, but I cannot call. You call me, you get a voice recording, that's not even me. Don't get dependent on the technology, which is why I keep my schedule in written form. Now what I have to do is go to the dollar store and buy one of them telephone books and empty out my cell phone so I got backup in case they ever zip it again. Because when my cell phone wasn't working, I wasn't able to call nobody. Only phone number I know by heart is mine and my mother's. Outside of that, I can't get to nobody else. So that's when it woke me up. Umar, you need to have a separate telephone book. And if you notice what they also done, they took away the payphones that used to be in the inner cities. Most cities ain't even got a payphone now, so you can't even make a call if you don't have a cell phone. Executive Order 10997 authorizes the takeover of all electric power and fuels. This is what I said earlier. You have to be able to live in your house at least 30 days, maybe longer, at least 30 days, without electricity, without sewage, without any power whatsoever. Are you and your family ready for that? Especially those of you who got young children. Especially those of you who got young children. And this is another reason why our children need to be breastfed. Because in the event of an emergency, the mother can still give nutrition to that baby. But for those of y'all who giving y'all kids kitty crap called Similac, okay, you're going to have an issue with that. Executive Order 10998. And by the way, family, even when your cell phone is off, it is not off. Okay? How do I know this? I know somebody who used to be an FBI agent, and they put me down. They said, Umar, even when your cell phone is off, it's not off, you actually have to take the battery out of the cell phone. And that's why a lot of cell phones are being made now, so you can't take the battery out. The battery is built into the phone, so they can always monitor you. Okay? Same thing with your computer. You should have an external hard drive where you save all your political stuff. External hard drive. Save nothing on the computer because they have the ability to go in and turn the computer on even while it's off and download all your files. Okay? We got to get serious about this. Executive Order 11,000 allows President Obama to force civilians to work, paid or unpaid. Now let me tell you what I think is going to happen. I don't know if martial law is going to come under Obama. He still got 3 years. It might. But I'm going to tell you when I think it probably will come. They're going to use Obama to put up laws in place. And then whoever is the next president, that's under who they're going to give us the martial law. Are y'all following me? So I think we got about 3 years to make sure the black community is prepared for this. Okay? Disaster preparedness, we talked about that earlier. Let me ask you a question. In the event of martial law, or a nuclear war, or a flood, or a hurricane, do we know where are the best places in the 7 cities to take your family for outdoor shelter? Where's the high plains and where's the low plains? Where is an available body of water if you need to go and get some drinkable water? What water body in Norfolk? Is it the Chesapeake? Is it a certain stream? Is there a certain river that y'all can go to? These are the things we need to know. Okay? Do y'all know where the FEMA camps are in this part of Virginia? Because you have them as well. In Chicago, the brothers and sisters up there actually know where their FEMA camps are. They know where they are, the underground camps. Do y'all know where yours are? Okay? So we need to start doing some serious planning. So if something goes down, people know what to do. Are there certain community centers that we want everybody to come to? Are there certain churches that are bomb-proof, that have better security than other ones? We have to get serious, y'all, because it's going to happen. It's going to happen, and I hate to say it, but I think it's going to be during your lifetime. Executive Order 11,001 authorizes the takeover of all hospitals, schools, and welfare programs. Now, why are they worried about the welfare? EBT machine. They're going to shut the welfare down. And who has the contract for the EBT machines? Xerox. Xerox Corporation does the EBT for the government. All this is testing. They're testing right now. Super Bowl was a test to see how you would react. 17 states losing their welfare card functionality, that's a test to see how you react. Because they've never done this before, so they got to make sure it's going to work when they finally do it. And guess what else they're going to do? And this is why you need to stop giving your weapons up, black people. You don't give up your guns. You keep your weapons. Because every state has a militia, which are regular white people who don't like black people, who live up in the mountains of Virginia. You hear them shooting out there practicing. You know what they're waiting for? They're waiting for the governor of Virginia to deputize them as law enforcement officers so they can come down to Norfolk and shoot black people dead. This happened before, it will happen again. Every state has a militia of white men. They are not cops, they are regular crackers who can be deputized at any time to come and defend the state from the black threat. Where your guns at? They let you buy 1 gun a month, you should be buying 1 gun a month. I know some brothers, they got a whole arsenal in their basement. So why you got all these guns? Because I know most of our people ain't got no guns. So if something goes down, I got to be able to get my whole block a damn weapon because they ain't got none. You got to think the same way. You got a clean criminal record, you need to start buying you guns. You ain't got to buy the $700 guns, but the little 200, 300, start stacking them. Get you some bullets. This is real talk. These movies you be watching, this is real talk. It's going to happen. Executive Order 11,002 authorizes the Postmaster General to create a national registry of all people. Okay? This is where I agree with my Moorish brothers when they talk about the birth certificates and the social security cards. Because if you ain't got one, they don't know you exist. And that's why I encourage our sisters to start having babies at home again. Because when you have a baby at home, they are not on the white man's paperwork nowhere. You have a baby at home, and you homeschool or you independent school that child, the white man don't even know they're here. So when they create a list of all the black folks in Norfolk to make sure they killed or locked up everybody, they won't even know your child exists. Executive Order 11,003 authorizes the takeover of all aircraft. 11,005, takeover of all railroads, waterways, and public storage. 11,051, the Office of Emergency Planning is to execute these takeovers in the event of war or financial economic crisis. Executive Order 11,310, the Department of Justice can take over all corrections institutions. Department of Justice. Now, Anti-Drug Abuse Act of 1998. I call it the Kill All Drug Dealers Act. Y'all remember this? This is the act that denied federal benefits to drug users and traffickers in 1988. Okay, this was George Bush the dad. This is the one that made it so if you come out of jail, you can't get welfare. You come out of jail, you can't get food stamps. You come out of jail, you can't get financial aid to go back to college. Why hasn't Obama overturned this yet? Why haven't you done anything about this? You and Eric Holder been talking about how y'all want to do something about the racial laws in America, and you ain't even overturned this. Up to $10,000 in fines for those who are found in possession of drugs, including marijuana, and minimum 20-year sentences or death for anybody who participates in a drug-related killing or is connected to a drug-related killing. Now, we don't want black people killing black people, but we also know cops are dirty. And a cop could frame me and say, I'm the one who gave the orders for somebody to be killed, even though I didn't, sending me to jail for the rest of my life or giving me the death penalty. Violent Crime Control Act of 1991. This is around, when did Clinton come in? Was he 91 or 92, Clinton?
That's when Bush was in the office.
Okay, so this is the end of Bush. $700 million for 10 regional prisons, $300 million for areas with high drug problems, bans certain semi-automatic weapons, and requires 5-day wait for handgun purchase. Death penalty to people with over 50 federal violent offenses, restricts the delay of execution provision. What does that mean? Restrict the delay of execution provision. If I'm your lawyer and you being sentenced to death, but I think there's some evidence that can help exonerate you, this does not allow me to forestall your execution. This allows them to give you a stay. This allows them to proceed or even speed up the time between now and the day you were actually murdered. And we know that the death penalty in America has exclusively been disproportionately used against black people. Okay? In fact, I read something in the news the other day. Remember the brother from Atlanta, was it, who was murdered through the death penalty a year or two ago? Right before the Trayvon thing? They came out with some evidence, I think, that said that he was innocent. They found the evidence after he died because they did not grant his attorneys a stay to try to get some more evidence. And 95% of all black criminal cases are what? Plea bargain. I just got an email from a brother behind bars, and I don't even know how he was able to email me. A couple days ago, he said, Dr. Umar, I plea bargained a 10-year deal. It's going to take me away from my son for 10 years. He said, I had to go with the plea bargain because I didn't have a lawyer who was willing to fight for me, and I was too scared that if I stood up, they'd end up hitting you with the whole book. So he said, I had to take this 10 years instead of 50, and now I feel guilty because I'm missing from my son, and I feel like it's my fault because I took this bid, but I was afraid to fight because he might never see me again. This is how bad it is, and we got to make sure we never forget that we got so many of our people who are behind bars, y'all. It's easy to forget because you don't see them every day. It's easy to forget your cousin. It's easy to forget your brother who are behind bars. We got to make a concerted effort not to forget them. Remember back in the 1800s? Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman had to remind blacks in the North not to forget their brothers and sisters in the South who were still in slavery. Because they didn't see us in chains, they forgot that we were still suffering in hell. And a lot of us here are forgetting about our family behind bars. And that's why I tell you, mothers, if your son 10 boot camps for under 25-year-olds and 10-year sentences for selling drugs to minors. You know what sent a lot of brothers to jail too? The law that said you couldn't sell drugs around the school. Remember that law? You couldn't sell drugs within, what, 500 feet? Not that they should be, okay? But we know that the government likes to play on our conscience and say, well, black people will get behind the drug laws if we tell them we protected their kids from selling the drugs. And so we back that stuff. And so what the cops started doing was framing brothers and sisters with drugs around the schools. Obama makes history. Until President Obama, you can only declare martial law for military reasons. Until President Obama, you can only declare martial law for military reasons. After Obama, you can declare martial law for any reason whatsoever, including an economic crisis or a drug crisis. Those two were specifically named. So if they say that Norfolk has an illegal drug epidemic, they can put it in martial law. And let me be clear with y'all. Not only can the president declare martial law, the governor of the state can. Obama can declare federal martial law, but the governor, who's the governor of Virginia? I don't even know, who is it? It's a female. Terry. Okay, Terry McCullough. He can declare martial law in any section of the state or the whole state. So he can declare martial law in just Norfolk and leave the rest of the state alone. Y'all need to understand this. Governors are next to presidents when it comes to power. They are the president of the state by law. And who is the military force for the state if the governor does declare martial law? Coast Guard and National Guard. National Guard in particularly was organized to do what? Squell rebellions. The National Guard was started to put down black insurrections, which is why I do not like our children going into the military. Because I know the day might come where they might be forced to shoot their own brother. We should not be sending our kids to the military. They don't need to go to the military to get their college education paid for. In fact, you can go to the military and still not get your college education paid for. You know how many brothers and sisters I know who signed up for the GI Bill and never got it? Remember, when you're in the military, you can't sue in regular court. Military got their own court. My father was a drill instructor. If you get done wrong in there, you just can't go get a lawyer. It don't work that way. That's a slave-based institution. In fact, I was talking to one brother in Virginia. I think the brother lived in Virginia, but we were somewhere else. He told me that there's still laws on the books that allows the government to kill an enlisted military man for certain offenses. And guess what else I was told? I was told that a lot of their brothers who get killed over in the Middle East, they're not being killed by Arabs. They're being killed by superior officers for violating laws. Yes. He said, Brother Umar, they're not being killed by enemy fire. They're being killed by their superior officers for refusing to go out front, for refusing to put their life on the line. They can legally take their life. This is what they're not telling us.